Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content, and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.
And drone footage captures the migrant caravan in southern Mexico. As the caravan advances towards the U.S., Texas builds a barrier with shipping containers in hopes of stopping it. The Texas governor's office says the state began using shipping containers to block border crossers starting in October. The office says Governor Greg Abbott first directed the state to use the containers to block low-level water crossing areas. The shipping container placement is used to divert illegal aliens to areas with more Border Patrol agents and police. The governor's spokesperson says thousands of National Guardsmen and state troopers are being deployed to place the containers, as well as erect additional barriers with razor wire. The spokesperson told news outlets she would not comment on how Abbott obtained the shipping containers, nor how many are being deployed by state troopers. Many asset managers have been backing away from the Chinese real estate bond market, but Goldman Sachs is making additional investments in the sector. NTD's Tiffany Meyer tells us what's behind the company's move.
Another Chinese real estate company is struggling to pay back its debt. Developer Fantasia saw its shares plunge 50%. That's after the company said it can't promise to pay back other debts. Fantasia already missed a $200 million payment due October 4th. All this set against a backdrop of mounting debt pressure in China's real estate sector. Over the years, the sector accumulated around $5 trillion of debt before Beijing set a cap on how much they can borrow. Chinese developers have to pay back over $90 billion next year, and some analysts say more than a third could have difficulty paying their debt. As for Fantasia, it says it's negotiating with some lenders about pushing back the due date for paying its loans. As Evergrande grapples with the weight of its obligations, Chinese real estate debts have become one of the most troubled assets in the global financial market. But one of the world's biggest investment banks seems to see it as an opportunity and is buying up those debts in droves. Angus Bell is a member of Goldman's portfolio management team. He told Bloomberg that the property sector has been the key driver of Chinese growth over the past 2 decades. It is unlikely the government will tolerate the impact on growth that would come about if it were to allow such a large number of developers to fail. So what exactly is Goldman Sachs doing? Bell said the financial institution has been buying high-yield bonds issued by Chinese property developers in U.S. dollars. That's on top of investing in the Chinese regime's local currency bonds.
The White House is promoting its program to get kids aged 5 to 11 vaccinated. This includes opening new family-friendly vaccination sites and school clinics. A doctor shares his thoughts with NTD on whether vaccinating young children is necessary. NTD's Allison Lee brings us more.
Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
The White House COVID-19 response team says that their program promoting the vaccine to kids 5 to 11 is hitting full strength this week. There are now 20,000 vaccination sites for young kids, including family doctors' offices, pharmacies, and clinics at schools.
By the end of the day today, we estimate that over 900,000 kids ages 5 through 11 will have already gotten their first shot. And through pharmacies alone, 700,000 additional appointments are already on the calendar at local pharmacies.
The U.S. has around 28 million kids aged 5 to 11. In addition to vaccinating more of them, the White House wants to reduce the number of unvaccinated adults and adolescents. The White House says vaccine requirements are helping to reach this goal.
Vaccination requirements have helped reduce the number of unvaccinated Americans ages 12 and older by almost 40%, from about 100 million in late July to under 60 million now.
But the idea of giving the COVID-19 vaccine to young kids isn't catching on with everyone. Dr. Jeff Myers from Summit Ministries tells NTD this is the first time in history that he's aware of that children are required to get a vaccine for a disease that they are by and large not susceptible to.
If you take a look back at, say, the measles vaccine in 1963, before the measles vaccine, 2.8 million children died every year from measles around the world. This was a disease that directly threatened those, especially those who were under the age of 5. The the measles vaccine came along, parents accepted that, and the number of cases of measles is very, very low.
The doctor says there were around 140,000 measles deaths worldwide this past year. In comparison, the number of 5 to 18-year-olds dying from COVID-19 in the U.S. from January 2020 to the end of October of this year was 474.
So we're asking parents to give an experimental vaccine to their children when there's almost no evidence at all that the children are at risk of this disease, but the older people who want to be protected.
San Francisco recently became the first city in the country to announce a vaccine passport requirement for kids aged 5 to 11. Allison Lee, NTD News.
Actor Matthew McConaughey says he's against mandating the COVID-19 vaccine for young kids and that he hasn't vaccinated his own young children. The actor was responding to a question at the New York Times DealBook Summit on Tuesday. He said, quote, "I couldn't mandate having to vaccinate the younger kids. I still want to find out more information." McConaughey notes that both he and his wife are vaccinated and that they did so by choice, but he is against requiring the shots. The movie star is a father of 3. He has previously floated the idea of running for Texas governor against Greg Abbott. And the NFL has fined the Green Bay Packers $300,000 for violating its COVID-19 protocols. Quarterback Aaron Rodgers and teammate Lazard were fined as well.
An NFL review found that the Green Bay Packers and 2 of its players had not followed the league's COVID-19 requirements. The league's policy prohibits unvaccinated players from gathering outside of team facilities in groups of more than 3. The NFL determined that quarterback Aaron Rodgers and wide receiver Lazard had both attended a Halloween party without being vaccinated. Rodgers and Lazard were each fined just under $15,000. The Packers were fined $300,000 for not reporting the violation or disciplining the players. Rodgers previously said in an interview on the Pat McAfee show that he's allergic to an ingredient used in the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, and he didn't want to get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine because he heard about people having adverse reactions to it. Packers president and CEO Mark Murphy said, "We respect the league's findings and we recognize the importance of adherence to the COVID protocols to keep our team and organization safe and healthy. We will continue to educate the team regarding the importance of the protocols and remain committed to operating within the protocols." The NFL said the Packers had cooperated fully with the league's investigation.
And the First Lady sends a message to kids of military members, thanking them for taking on extra roles at home and calling on Americans to consider lending more of a hand to military families across the nation.
We can and we must give our military and veteran caregiving families everything they need to care for their wounded warrior with compassion, dignity, and love.
When I was little, our dad spent so much time at Shepherd's Center Hospital because of his brain injury that I got used to talking to other children who had moms and dads in the hospital.
Gabby admits they were scared to speak in front of everyone, but said she knew they needed to remind other caregiver kids that they aren't alone. She says it can be tough, but she plays her role to bring light to the family. A new report found more than 2 million kids live with a disabled veteran, and many of those kids have to take on additional responsibilities to help out. The First Lady showed gratitude for Gabby, her sister, and the millions of other kids out there who have a bigger role to play for their veteran parents. And sometimes fiction meets reality. For Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lohmeyer, seeing Shen was one such experience. The ousted Space Force commander says the classical Chinese dance performance conveys an important message for the world today.
I thought the show was phenomenal. Very important message, timely message in a world that's giving in to the communist impulse. And couldn't be more grateful for the work that these performers do.
Lohmeyer wrote a book called Irresistible Revolution, which talks about communism in the United States military. He says he appreciates that Shen Yun is reviving the traditional culture of China before the days of communism.
I sensed a warning in the performance. We've become so disconnected from that divine spirit and so connected to a ruined spirit This is a call and a beckoning to come back to the divine influence, and it resonates with societies, I think, across the globe, and so it's timely, important, and it's a message that we all need today.
Ancient Chinese culture is said to be divinely inspired. Shen Yun portrays these traditional values on stage through dance and music.
I've never experienced anything like this, and I've been to the theaters back east and in the west, and this is just, it's so lifting, and yeah, the love that is shared in telling their stories, there's nothing like it. It's worth coming every night to see the same performance.
Well, this is my 6th time seeing the show, meaning repetitive years. And every time I see it, I'm just totally amazed at the performers and the message that I see here. Shen Yun, heavenly beings. It talks about inspiration, about how we all should be able to learn how to get along together on this planet. But even more, it talks about our immortality. If we believe in immortality, that by doing the right thing, following the golden rule, we should all somehow learn to get together and be one, and be able to, of course, follow the good things in life.
Another really important part of the performance tonight was that it draws awareness to all of the evils of the Chinese Communist regime today, like organ harvesting.
The classical dance troupe travels around the world. However, Shen Yun cannot perform in China because the show portrays the communist regime's persecution of faith.
Every year I see it, it talks to me more in my heart about freedom and how lucky we are here in this country to be able to express our freedoms. People need to come and see and experience Shen Yun, breathe it in, because it's something good for the body, it's good for the mind, and above all, it's good for the soul.
The San Francisco Department of Elections has set the date for District Attorney Chesa Boudin's recall election. City locals blame the DA for the city's increasing crime and lack of criminal prosecution. We hear more from NTD's Cynthia Kai.
San Francisco District Attorney Chesa Boudin is now facing a recall. On Tuesday, the San Francisco Department of Elections confirmed a special election will be held on June 7, 2022. Boudin assumed the role in 2020 through San Francisco's ranked choice voting system. Locals say he is responsible for the city's rising crime rates.
There's a perception that he's not the choice of the majority. So that's part of it. So he doesn't have a mandate. But I think the citizens have witnessed that a lot of criminals are getting out right away. They're getting arrested with GPS ankle monitors, so there's no consequences to them being arrested, and crime is up.
Barberini explained that under Boudin's leadership, property crime and theft have dramatically increased. He cited the closure of multiple Walgreens and reduced hours for select Target and Safeway stores in response to rising theft. According to financial statements filed last week, the campaign to recall Boudin has raised over $1.6 million, whereas the anti-recall side raised around $650,000. The recall of Chesa Boudin became a bipartisan effort, with both a Democratic and a Republican-led effort to oust the DA.
Liberal, progressive, Democrat, Republican, non-party, it doesn't matter. Across the board, everyone was signing that petition.
Recall organizers say they will focus their efforts on continuing raising awareness and support. Now that the recall is on the ballot, we are laser focused on getting our message out via doors, phones, and airwaves to help ensure San Francisco has a DA that makes public safety their #1 priority. The Safer Without Boudin campaign said in a statement to the San Francisco Chronicle. If Boudin is ousted, Mayor London Breed will choose a replacement to serve out the rest of his term. Boudin's June 7th recall will be combined with the statewide primary election. Cynthia Kai, NTD News, California.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Don't forget to catch all of our programs on TV. NTD Evening News is on every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Find your local NTD channel at ntd.com/TV.